Hello. So, it's quite the topic today. This is one that's been affecting me for almost a month now. So, yeah. Let me fix my model real quick. If I can find myself here. There we go. Just some weird differences between OBS and VTube Studio. I just want to fix those before we get started. So, this is a hard topic. Luckily for me, I do have a business degree. So, yeah, we're gonna bounce back and forth between a whole host of documents. But the one in front of you right now is actually the leaked version of the Open Game License 1.1 from Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. I'm gonna jump to one of the others to really discuss what this is. But, yeah, this is the full thing. 15 pages worth. If you're curious, the original 1.0 of this document was a single page. It is now 15. Some of this wouldn't be in a final version because this is a draft copy. And I'm pretty sure from some little oddities in it that they used a trick to copy and paste out the text. Probably into like basic notepad to strip all the extra data off of it. And did some little basic formatting stuff and then tossed it back into a PDF. Probably to get rid of like a watermark and some other stuff. But yeah, it did strip out some of the things like clickable links. So that's why I figure that is the case. This is an article on Arbiter of Worlds. I think at the end it says who it's by, but he happens to be a lawyer who currently runs Autarch, I think that's how you say it, and published the game Adventure Conquer King system, which is under the original Open Game License 1.0. This is what we've been using for, I think the original one goes back to like 2007. I'm not gonna double check that right this moment. And I don't have it on hand. Well, I do somewhere. Yeah. When I was figuring out what it would take to officially publish my custom campaign, Celestia, I looked at both the SRD 5.0 and the OGL 1.0. Because you have to. You don't really have a choice. You gotta know how far you can go and how far you can't. So, you need to look at those if you're getting into this stuff, which I was. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But to start things off, they recently, back in December, had some rumors come up that Wizards of the Coast and their parent company, Hasbro were gonna go and change the open game license to a 1.1 version. This guy's a good example. He's not a practicing intellectual property specialist. Neither am I. I did go to business school. I have taken business and intellectual property law as classes, which were taught by actual lawyers with experience. So I do know basically what I'm talking about, to the same level probably that he does. Though he is that shiny degree holder with a, actual license to practice law. So I'm gonna defer to his judgment for a lot of things. Now, when the rumors happened, to sort of come back and fight the rumors, D&D Beyond, which is owned by Wizards of the Coast, put out a statement, basically a FAQ, an FAQ. And I'm not gonna pull it up. I'd have to go find it. But they put up a FAQ that said that for most people things wouldn't be changing. But I took a careful look at what was in that text, and I immediately got chills. It really felt to me, even back then, that they want to extend what they do on the DM's Guild to everybody. I'll get into that a little bit later, but to start things off, as he says here, for more than 20 years, we've all relied on the OGL to be irrevocable. And as he says, the question isn't, can they? They are doing it. It's not like some, police are gonna raid WotC offices and force them at gunpoint to change the OGL, because that's not legal somehow. That is not how businesses do this sort of thing. If a business does something that's not legal, they have to be sued about it. Sometimes that's by a government agency, but they still go to court. And as he puts it, the question is, who is going to stop them from doing it? And as he puts it right next here, the answer might be no one. And there's a good reason for this. He gets into it, and I'll get into it as well. He actually consulted with one of New York's top IP litigators to find out how much money it would cost to fight Wizards of the Coast. And when he suggested $100,000 might cover the costs, he was laughed at and said that just to get to the chance of a summary judgment, he'd need about $500K. $500,000. Yeah, for an actual trial, the IP lawyer said it would be about $4 million. And that's without figuring in 4 to 6 years of court trials, and the fact that while you're in court, it's quite likely you might be demanded not to actually produce anything that might violate the terms of the contract. So anything that was pending, like further copies of an existing system that you're fighting about whether or not it should follow with the OGL, all of that is not something you can sell during that period. Well, probably. Their lawyers are probably going to insist on that. And from the court's point of view, quite likely they're just going to grant that. So, your livelihood would just go away for 4 to 6 years, while you have to pay out at least $4 million. So, yeah, who can really afford that? And would they be willing to actually do that? Because here's the trick. Some people have suggested in the RPG community that companies like Disney, because they've produced works that fall into things that are covered by the OGL, or at least the 1.0, might want to take them to court about it. But most likely, what would happen is that the two companies' lawyers would talk, and they'd come to a deal. Like, even something as simple as, maybe we won't sue you, and you won't sue us, and that's all. I just don't make any new works that might infringe, and we're fine with it. You can even keep selling it. We'll let you do that. And we won't enforce all these other terms we make everyone else do. They can do that. Some people have this weird thought that copyright is like trademark law, and that you have to enforce your terms everywhere equally, or you lose the protections of copyright. That is not how that works. That is how trademark works, but not copyright. So, that's an important distinction. Yeah. And as he says, we don't have $4 million, so we'd lose. The rich guy is the one who wins. And usually that is the case in our legal system here in the United States. If you're not in the US, things might be different, but it's not going to really save you in a lot of cases. And we'll get into that a little bit later. He suggests Paizo might want to fight, but Paizo might not litigate. Instead, they might do the same thing that Disney might, and work out some sort of deal. I don't think Wizards of the Coast is going to be quite as happy to make a tit-for-tat sort of deal with Paizo as they would Disney. Because Disney actually does have the money to just kick the crap out of them in court. So, yeah, Paizo might be willing to do it, but they're one of the few who might. And even so, we wouldn't know for about, 4 to 6 years. That's when the court would finally decide the case. And if they came out on the side of the original OGL, we could all return suddenly to business. But that would be 4 to 6 years, while WotC can just basically run all over everyone, suing anyone they feel like. And easily they can. Like a lot of large companies, they have an entire group of lawyers that are on retainer, which means to the company, they're just sitting around doing nothing. Most business people are gonna think that it's much better if they're doing something, like suing everyone. Kind of like if you were around when MP3s were a new thing, and record companies utterly despised MP3s and any sort of sharing of music. Give me 1 sec. Sorry. Had a drink. But, yeah. If you were around during those times, you know, they were suing everyone they could. There were frivolous lawsuits everywhere. And most people can't afford to fight. So they have to capitulate. That's what happened with most of those copyright suits for the record labels. They were big about that. People would get, fines of like $5,000. But fines handed out by the record industry. It's quite easy for them to do the same sort of thing here. But in fact, he goes to the same argument. Allow me to disabuse you of this notion too. WotC doesn't have to sue everybody. All they need to do is to persuade the gatekeepers, Kickstarter, and your Indiegogo, Drive-Thru RPG, Amazon, and a handful of other companies that they are better off cooperating with WotC than opposing it. This would be basically cease and desist notices. I've actually gotten one of these before for a campaign I did. I was doing it with GURPS at the time, the generic universal roleplay system. And they decided I shared a little too much stuff, which is under their copyright. So they sent me a cease and desist. Well, technically they sent that to the website that was hosting my campaign. And the website goes, yeah, we got a cease and desist for you. At least for this campaign. We're just gonna turn that to private and no one can see it now. Effectively deplatforming me. And they're like, sorry. They're like, yeah, if you remove everything you think might be infringing, you can contact us and we might unprivate it. Until then, no one besides you can see this. Yeah, not really helpful for a campaign you're running with friends. So, it was pretty much gone. And that is pretty much the same thing they would do here. YouTube loves to do that. They have a very easy system. People can send the equivalent of a cease and desist on copyright grounds through the DMCA. And with basically no checks, you're immediately removed. Twitch does something pretty much the same. So, yes, if they want to, they can go after every platform you could try to put this on. I'll get back to that a little bit when I talk about my own aspect of this. The one that actually heads up, or is the Vice President and Chief of Staff at Hasbro, is Nicholas Mitchell, who spent about 25 years in intellectual property law. He knows very well that legally they can do this and get away with it. Probably entirely without seeing any court action. And even if they do get a few, they're just gonna sweep those away. And likely they'll get away with it. And here is where we get into some of those terms. In fact, as he puts it, no, it's not as bad as we thought. It's much worse. The first target is where he talks about how this agreement is an update to the previously available OGL, which is no longer an authorized license agreement. And as he puts it, in this paragraph, WotC is explicitly deauthorizing the OGL 1.0. Worse, they're asserting the right to modify or terminate the OGL 1.1 in the future without cause, with just 30 days notice. And as he puts it, can you build a business on a license that can be withdrawn with a month's notice? And the answer is always no. Even for me, I wouldn't be able to really put out stuff. If I knew, I'd have to take it down immediately with a 30-day notice, which is basically a cease and desist, by the way. That's what they mean. Let me see. It's this line about for any reason whatsoever. And they add to that a little further down. But first, he goes into the section where they talk about if you don't like these terms and you don't want to agree to the OpenGL commercial license 1.1. And they say that's fine, it just means you cannot earn income from any SRD-based D&D content you create. And you will need to either operate under the new OGL non-commercial or strike a custom direct deal with Wizards of the Coast. And as he puts it, this clause is meant to be reassuring that it's anything but. The first sentence, you cannot earn any income from the SRB-based D&D content you create, is then compared to the last sentence. If you want to publish SRD-based content on the date specified in the original draft, your only option is to agree. And creating content and publishing content aren't exactly the same thing. And they left it a little unclear exactly where the line gets drawn. And that seems to be trying to placate people. It doesn't work very well if you go any further, though. And if you want, we can actually look at those sections over here. Yeah, like this one here. What if they don't like these terms? This is the exact same paragraph. It's not even in to the first part of the document yet. Where are we? Sorry, I have to catch up to where I am. Then he goes on to another section. Sorry, you guys were probably getting echo. I didn't even notice. Maybe you weren't. But I left my main speakers on. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. But I only noticed because my foot was on the bass speaker. And the current clip rumbles. So, yeah. But anyway, licensed work that includes licensed content. Open game content. If the only way a reader can distinguish what you created from what we did is to check your licensed work against the SRD, we're non-compliance with this provision. In this provision, WotC is demanding that we index and identify every piece of licensed content that we use. Given how much licensed content is entirely embedded in the very vocabulary of RPGs, this is essentially impossible to comply with. This would actually, because I've read the SRD, this basically means that using terms like advantage and disadvantage might be enough to cause them to try to target you. Even if you don't believe, because say you're using a D8 system, all the dice you roll are D8s rather than D20s. You feel you're safe. Nah, dog. You're not safe. We're gonna target you because you talk about advantage and disadvantage, and that gives you an extra roll. Yeah, that's ours. Can't use that. Not that you necessarily can copyright those particular terms and what they mean, because that goes into game mechanics, and you can't really copyright those. The only thing is, no one is going to slap WotC on the wrist and say, wait, you can't copyright those. No. That doesn't work that way. Again, they would have to be taken to court, and it would be a protracted battle where they might lose their copyright. So, yeah, don't expect that to happen. That is not realistic. He's highlighted some things in the next part. Like, we have the sole right to decide what conduct violates Section 8G or Section 8H. And you covenant and agree that you will not contest any such determination via any suit or other legal action. Basically, it's what you see a lot in, click-through licenses for, software, where they tell you, another good one here is, paperwork when you sign on to a company. You often have to sign away your right to take illegal action. Sorry, I need some... Okay, better. But you give away your right to legal action against them, even if they terminate you for some crazy reason. Same thing here. If they terminate your license under this, you can't do anything to them. At least and still be held to it. And they go a step farther. You waive any duty of good faith and fair dealing. Which means they aren't required to follow any rules. They can subjectively, at a whim, go, yeah, you don't have a license anymore. And that jumps back to that whole 30 days part. And you bring in action challenging our ownership of licensed content, unlicensed content, or any patent or trademark owned by Wizards of the Coast. Which is a breach of the contract on your part. So they can just terminate you. And basically, it gives them anything you do to us, we get rid of your license. And then good luck, because we're suing you. And basically that would be a countersuit, by the way. That's a little hard to explain, unless you understand how that works in business law. But both parties can sue each other. So, even if what triggers it is you suing them, that's perfectly fine. They would argue that the terms were broken by you trying to sue them, when you don't have any legal right to. And they would countersue. And they can do things like damages that they're trying to get from you. For business law, most interactions are commercial interactions. Basically, some sort of money will alleviate the damages on one party. So, yeah, mostly what they would sue for is money. And, yeah, as he puts it, here is WotC asserting the right to retroactively decide that any piece of content you've ever made can be dubbed problematic and therefore in violation of the license. And they retain the exclusive right to make this determination and demand that you waive any right to contest their decisions legally. And if you do file a lawsuit, they make that a breach of the license, in effect terminating your license. Now, here they get into needing to see an SRD 5.1, which is not something we've seen yet. I would really like to see what is an SRD 5.1. The current version, I'm pretty sure, is 5. I have a copy somewhere. I haven't looked at it in a bit. But they're basically saying that all the previous SRDs before 5.1 are invalid. So 3.0, 3.5, which things like Pathfinder First Edition are based on, all that is invalid. Even the 5.0 SRD is no longer open game content. The only thing you can interact with is the SRD 5.1, which we haven't even seen. And based on the 5.0 version, it's going to lay out a lot of terms mostly. Even things like level progression for like a paladin are described in the SRD. It's actually one reason why there's some like issues with certain classes getting OGL content. This has come up with artificers quite often. If you want to make like a subclass for an artificer, artificers aren't in the 5.0 SRD. They were released later, so you actually cannot make those. You can't make subclasses to something that is not covered under the SRD without potentially infringing on their copyright. At least if you're going to reference the original artificer. If you don't reference the artificer at all, you could maybe do it. But, yeah, that's why no one will make that stuff. Personally, for Celestia, it's one reason why I was originally intending, and when carried over from my source, which was actually Celestia for Fate, because I built it with Fate first, and then ported it to 5e, or at least 5.0 SRD. I didn't want to use the name of existing classes. I mostly did for my players, and actually I've changed that at this point. If I had an alternative name, it is now that. Yeah. So, rather than barbarians, you have destroyers. And rather than rangers, you have slayers. Because that's what they were in Fate. But, yeah. That's also shots fired against things like Pathfinder. Because that's based on 3.5, and if 3.5 isn't valid anymore, neither is anything based on 3.5. And another aspect of this is that commercial only allows for creation of role-playing games and supplements in printed media or static electronic file formats, which actually means the Celestia Wiki has a non-static electronic file format would not be a valid thing to get covered under the OGL. Probably at the moment it's covered under the fan license. But yeah, those are the only things covered. They specifically say it does not allow for anything else, including, but not limited to, things like videos, virtual tabletops, VTT campaigns, like the ones I run, computer games, novels, apps, graphic novels, music, songs, dances, and pantomimes. That's a pretty large genre. Yeah, computer games in particular basically targets things like Celesta. He doesn't mention that, but he does mention that for his own game, a game studio had just finished developing a computer game version of their mass combat system. But this provision puts that project in jeopardy. And as he puts it, the projects of virtually every VTT, YouTube, and Patreon creator around. In fact, it specifically mentions Patreon and how you can make money if, like, your content is behind a paywall on Patreon. Yeah, that's commercial as far as they're concerned. So, every one of those creators out there who goes around and posts their stuff on Patreon to help support themselves, this goes and tosses that out, saying it's commercial. They get into crowdfunding here. I'm not going to touch on that too much. But yeah, it's a pretty stupid thing because it potentially makes anything that you include as like a bonus potentially infringing works. So, like, if you're creating a campaign setting, for instance, and you want to throw in some miniatures or cards or, I don't know, a short video trailer as bonus items, because those don't fall under the types of work covered, you could actually get in very big trouble. Definitely sued. But this is the one that is the thing I saw coming, and the thing that makes it so making anything, commercial or not, be a really big issue. You own the new and original content you create. However, and I'm adding the however, you agree to give us a not-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide sub-license, royalty-free license. Oh, sub-licensable, sorry. Royalty-free license to use that content for any purpose. And I've seen some people argue that this is included in a lot of things. But no, not to this degree. This part here, actually, and they talk about it right here, where it continues, nothing prohibits us from developing, distributing, selling, or promoting something that is substantially similar to a licensed work, i.e., your work. Basically, they're saying that as we force you to tell us what you make, to be in agreement with this, and so we can look at it before anyone else gets it. We can look at it, go, that's a great idea. I'd really like to, actually sell that ourselves. You can't have a license. Goodbye. And because it's not perpetual, irrevocable, and even better, sub-licensable, and royalty free. And they're not bound by, like, your parts, supposedly in this agreement. Because they can break this at their whim. They just need to give you 30 days notice. So you submit your work. You immediately get, within 30 days, probably, a notice that says, we're not giving you a license, but since you gave us a license, we're now doing your idea. Have fun with that. I mean, that is just... Okay, this is where we get into the DMs Guild. I mentioned it earlier. The DMs Guild has a provision just like this. So if you produce something on the DMs Guild, and they like it, they can just take that. I looked at the licensing required for DMs Guild. I saw basically this part right here, and I fled in terror. And if you make content, you should too. Yes, this just lets them take your work, resell it, promote it, redevelop it. So, say you make a really interesting idea for... Sorry, I keep coughing. For, well, here's a good example. Ship-to-ship combat for Spelljammer. So, you put it out there. You just want, say, $2 for, a PDF version to cover your costs. So you can keep things running, like the website that hosts it and everything else. You're not really making much money on a $2 product. But, yeah. They can go and send you a notice and say, yeah, you can't release that anymore. No more money for you. Even though it's only $2. But, that same system suddenly shows up with a few minor tweaks and some extra text in an official Spelljammer supplement. Like Spelljammer ship-to-ship combat. Yeah, they can do that. That's what this says right here. Which is just crazy nutballs. I know, people do sign away the rights like that to DMs Guild. I wouldn't. There's no way you can... I mean, as he puts it, this is beyond unconscionable. It's grotesque. 'Cause it really is. It's great if you're the company. It's just utterly great. Sure, you don't have to pay writers anymore. Just have some staff that can look over and review ideas coming in. Anything that looks good, snag it. Pure, surefire way to make unlimited money. Keep a few high-ranking people on. You don't need all those pesky creators, though. Oh, and those art assets that you made to go with that, or you purchased. Yeah, all those are ours, too. So, we get to use those if we want. Good luck with that. And art, by the way, is not cheap. One piece of art, a simple one for a PDF, for instance, can easily be $50 or more. And really good art can be a couple $100. So, yeah. If you paid for that art, you grant them a license to it. And, it's irrevocable by you. at least under these terms. But they can revoke your part and make it so you can't earn any money to pay back what you spent. That is such a crappy way to handle that. As he puts it here, OGL 1.1 is a non-starter. Its unconscionable claim on licensee IP to its own grotesque provisions for termination is entirely unacceptable. He says to us, but I'm going to say to everybody, you can see on Twitter very easily, Opendnd has been trending for days and days, since I think the 5th, so 5 days at this point, and it's been constantly trending as more and more people talk about this. He basically plans to finish his existing Kickstarter because it already closed and he has to finish it. Contractually, he has to finish it. Or, basically, he'd get in a lot of trouble. So he's going to finish that. And at that point, he's going to make his own set of core rules that do not use the OGL. And this is where I'm going to tote a little bit over to here. Actually, over to here. This is Kobold Press. They're one of the other big devs, developers, and publishers. In fact, ironically, Wizards of the Coast has used Kobold Press to make some of their supplements. I forget which ones off the top of my head, but I know the president of Kobold Press is credited with making part of the Salt Marshes. I forget the name of the modules or campaign modules. Crap. The Salt Marshes one. It's been out for a while. It's not the only one. They made another one as well. In fact, it literally says in the credits, created by Kobold Press, published by Wizards of the Coast. Which means WotC hired Kobold Press to make the module for them. Because apparently they couldn't do it themselves. They're gonna finish their current works, because again, obligated to. They do a lot of stuff via Kickstarters and other funding things, just like the other one I showed you. So they'll finish those. Cancel all the other 5e compatible ones that they can't roll out as like non-platform, and then they're gonna make their own core fantasy desktop rule set, and in both cases they're open rule sets, so anyone should be able to use those. Kobold Press is calling it the Project Black Flag, and as they put it, they're raising their sails. I would think they'd put that as raising their flag. Oh, I said, yeah, it is raising our flag. I said sails. I was wrong. But yeah, they're just gonna drop 5e at this point. They don't see any future in it. And frankly, I don't either. Some people though, and Opendnd, or hashtag Opendnd, is a bunch of people getting together to try to convince Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro to not go forward with this. There are 26,000 535 signatures currently. Nope. 43,867. I've already done that myself, but on my other PC, so I still get the submission form. A lot of names for, like, Foundry Virtual Tabletop, different small publishers, Rogue Genius, I recognize several of those, Midnight Quills, Plane Shift Press, Griffin Saddlebag, Alchemy RPG, yeah, this might have some impact, just because they can use it to show how many people are willing to basically stop anything to do with 5e or the 1D&D over everything. If you're listening to this, please go sign, just in case it might have an effect. There was a job posting that I think it was Wizards of the Coast put out the other day. But oh, there it is. D&D Beyond did actually put out this statement. We know you have questions about the OGL, and we will be sharing more soon. Thank you for your patience. And, yeah. Maybe this is having an impact. Maybe. We'll see. This is pretty much a nothing statement, though it's been viewed 444,000 times. Retweeted, quoted. Yeah. Most people, not really thrilled over this non-announcement. So, yeah, that's definitely a thing. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. Oh, except what I'm going to do. So, here's the thing. And I'll switch back over to this, just so we can have that up there. I don't have the link on the right PC. It's opendnd.games/ hashtag open dash letter. Sorry. If you want to go there. I'll provide links when I put it up on YouTube. But, yeah, for now. Yeah. So, I don't know if you guys saw this or not. Back in December, I put up the list of things I was working on. One of those was for my 2nd anniversary, which is at the end of this month. For that, I was going to release most of, like, the classes and subclasses as, like, bundled PDFs, making them all fancy and nice. You can find them on my wiki, though I don't really talk about my wiki too much. But it does exist there. In fact, I'll go to the front page. It looks like this. You can already get all the roles here. I only have one fan at the moment. But... oh, and I should say, this is open and available, at least at the moment, until I get another cease and desist. But, yeah. I already have classes and all that I've worked out and I've updated. We've done basically a year of playtesting at this part. Sorry, the coughing. So yeah, after a year of playtesting and some recent changes, I was going to release them. Put them on Ko-Fi as part of my 2-year anniversary. And I'd sell them for like $1 or $2. Mostly to cover my costs, by the way. It does cost something to create those. So, as I think it's pretty obvious, I can't do that anymore. I had everything ready right up until pasting in the text and getting it formatted correctly. That was the step I was on. And since we're about 20 days away, I still had plenty of time to work on that part. So yeah, I had everything ready to go. But with this, I can't release it. I was so happy that I would have an alternative for people to support me. Especially since we get a lot of attention for D&D stuff. But, yeah, that's not an option anymore. Sorry, more coughing. I don't know what I'm gonna do at this point. The wiki may now be considered to be infringing. Even though it's up for free, and I don't charge anyone to go there. So it might be under fan content. And there is a fan license. Let me... Oh, I don't really want to get rid of that. Well, let's get rid of this. Oh. Sorry. Yeah, I think this is... No, that's their forums. Again. It's all from their forums. People are just talking about it. Alright, fine. We'll see if we can find it here. Yeah, you did a really bad job. Maybe... Yeah, here it is. This is what they posted a little while ago. It does have the fan content policy here. This, by the way, would immediately make it so if I did, like, subscriber-only streams for D&D, that would immediately make it so I don't fall under this policy. And you can't sell or license fan content. No type of compensation. I really don't like this part here, where if someone wants to, they can just use the content, and you're required not to even get or require credit. And I have to make sure to tell everyone that it's unofficial. And follow a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, including sponsors that would be friendly and not harmful to Wizards of the Coast. Yeah. And that's for all their titles. Not exactly friendly. At least if you want to make anything from it. And it doesn't really, talk about where updatable content goes. It's not really in there anywhere. So, yeah, it leaves my wiki pretty much up in the air. I'm not making money from it. The hosting company does. They put ads on the page, I think. I don't get the ads. But they do have ads on it. And I don't see money from that. In fact, I have to pay the hosting company. But, yeah. I'm not sure what to do. I can't release it as is. I have considered, and I might port it to, Pathfinder 2nd Edition. At least if Paizo decides to take action in some way. I would definitely be tempted. If, they're gonna support us, I'll support them. I'll port it. In fact, it was on my agenda to eventually port Celestia to a number of other game systems. It started out with Fate. And it's still a Fate game. Not as advanced form as it is now, because I've spent the last 4 years making the 5e edition. And about another 4 before that, making the Fate version. It takes a lot of work. Before that actually came this. I had an idea way back in 2012 to make what I called the open role-playing system, which isn't, as I put it here, is intended as a community-based, Creative Commons licensed RPG rule set that allows game masters to develop any kind of RPG setting or campaign that is flexible enough to allow you to work your way. I should probably reword that. I mean, it is basically a little over a decade old. It's based on a point-buy system, so it's not level-based. And it was meant to be modular. Basically... Sorry again. Kind of like conditions in D&D, or properties on weapons, abilities, and everything else were bots based on the terms to describe them. So, flaming was a term. So, if you want a flaming ability that has a set modular concept to it, and the framework tells you how to place that. But, yeah, if you want an even older work of mine, this was my attempt to create a role set from scratch. I put several years into it. I haven't touched it in a while, though. I wonder if it'll tell me. Yeah, I haven't touched it since September 23rd, 2012. Or at least this page. Yeah, it's only gonna tell me that page. But, probably the main page was one of the last I touched. It had the vehicle and item creation rules, the GM's guide. Yeah, I'm a crazy person. Oh, well, I thought I'd have to bring this up, but apparently, to show how crazy I am, these are all the systems that I own PDFs for. Abandon All Hope, Abney Parks, Airship Pirates, Ace and Eights, Anima, Arcana, Arcanis, Armageddon, Ars Magica, Artesia, Ashen Stars, Babylon 5, Badass, Battletech, Beyond the Firelight, Blue Planet, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Burning Wheel Gold, Call of Cthulhu, Chronica, Classic D&D. There's only one module in there. Most of those I have in physical copies. It predates most of the other stuff, but my physical copy has disappeared of one module, so I had to go and buy it. Cold and Dark, Colonial Gothic, Conspiracy X, Continuum, Coriolis, Cthulhu Stars, Cthulhu Tech, Cyberpunk, that's where Cyberpunk Red lives, D&D 3.5, and 3, I think they're both in there, D&D 4th Ed, even though people hated that system, I still have a lot of the books in digital form. I never played it, but I have the books. Darwin's World, D-Genesis, Distance Worlds, D-John, Don't Lose Your Mind, Don't Rest Your Head, Dragon Age, Dragon Brigade, Earthdawn, Eclipse Phase, Entropic Gaming System, Etherscope, Exalted Fading Suns, Fate, First Contact, Forgotten Realms, which should probably go with, like, the D&D books, but, anything Forgotten Realms specific went in there. It wasn't the base setting for D&D for 5th edition, so, it got its own folder. Gamma World, Genesis, Ghosts of Avalon, Godlike, Godsend Agenda, Grim Hollow, GURPS, Helix, Hero System, Hollow Earth Expedition, Hot Chicks and Flames, Infinity RPG, Iron Heroes, Iron Kingdom, Ironbound, Jade Punk, Jovian Chronicles, Kid World, Legend of the Five Rings, Leviathan, Lost Roads of Losium, the Marvel RPG, I think a couple of versions, Marvel Superheroes, Mass Effect, Mecton Zeta, Mindjammer, Mistborn, Moto Bushido, Narcissist, New, which is, as you can guess, not a system. But anything I put in there. I should probably go through that, actually. Nightmare Amongst the Stars, Nobilis, Nova Praxis, Obsidian Apocalypse, One Dice, Outbreak Undead, Palladium Books, Part-Time Gods, Pathfinder, Polaris, Pure Steam, Quinn, Ravenloft, again, and setting for D&D, Revelations, Rogue Trader, Ronin, Savage Worlds, Scion, Screenplay, Secrets of Zeron, Serenity, Shadowrun, Shadows of Her Soul, Silver Age Sentinels, Skyrealms of Jorun? I'm not sure how you say that. Smallville, Spirit of the Century, Star Frontier, Star Wars Edge of the Empire, Star Wars Saga Edition, Stars Without Number, Stellar Wind, Strike Force, Supernatural, Suzerain, Swashbucklers of the Seven Skies, Teleslanta, The Void, The World of Cinnabar, Threshold, Traveler, Trinity, Valiant, Victorian Steampunk, VTM, Vampire the Masquerade, if you're wondering, Weapons of the Gods, Witchcraft with Great Power, World of Darkness, or WOD, Wuzing. There's some others in here as well, like Elite Dangerous, the RPG. I have collected RPG systems for decades. Luckily, you can't see my room. I have a lot of physical books, besides the digital ones. It's so much easier to, use the digital ones, but, yeah, I have collected a lot of them. So, I have a very big grounding in RPGs, tabletop RPGs. And, I've been modifying and creating systems forever. In fact, let's hop back into that folder for a sec. Remember how I said I couldn't find one very important module, which is Blade of Vengeance. This was originally made by TSR, and is one of the first things. Well, in fact, it was the first D&D product I ever got. At least my paper version was. But yeah. So, it was actually a gift, by the way, this new version, because I couldn't find the old one. But, as it is, that I didn't have the actual, rules to go with that. I got the module. My parents bought it in, a dollar bin. It was probably less than $1 by a good bit. But, they got a bunch of them. They gave them to me. I didn't have any of the rules. So I had to create rules on my own. And I've been doing it ever since. So, this is part of the industry I've always wanted to get into. And now, I'm just not sure where to go. Obviously, I can try porting stuff over, but if I just spent 4 years developing it to where it is now, it's gonna take a lot more time to get back to the same point. So, yeah. I'm not really looking forward to that. And I'm not sure what I do at this point. But, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. This is gonna be a very short episode. But, yeah. I felt it had to come out. So, we're gonna talk about it. And, well, we did talk about it. If you guys had questions, I'd be totally willing to answer them. But, yeah, that's sort of the state of things. And I know this is long, so, well, it's gonna be long when it gets to YouTube anyways. It's kind of short for Twitch, but, yeah, I don't really have anything else to talk about. And I'm not really up to playing the game after we just spent a long time talking. I think we're gonna raid Dice Queen D. She's doing the same thing as us, but I think she wants to go a little more in depth. I was willing to take the highlighted points rather than going step by step through 15 pages. So yeah, I think we're gonna raid her. But oops. Does help if I spell things correctly. There we go. We're ready to raid. Let me get her stream up so we can hop over there. Yeah, that's it. So, have fun. Take care, and I will see you later. On Thursday, actually, with more D&D. My new D&D one-shot comes out Thursday night. So, yeah, look forward to that. In the meantime, have fun, take care, and I'll see you later. Bye.